Hello, movie and entertainment fans, and welcome back to the Calvin Cam podcast, where we tackle all sorts of topics in the film, television, and video game world. I'm Calvin, and today we have another breakdown and review episode for HBO's The Last of Us. So, buckle up for some of my thoughts on episode 6, titled Kin. All right, everyone, we are back with another episode, finally, right? I feel like it's been a little bit of time since episode 5 was pushed forward a few days because of the Super Bowl. We've now had to wait longer for episode 6 to drop. So we finally hit Sunday yesterday, and we got to watch the new episode, and it was great. It was absolutely fantastic. Probably one of my favorite episodes so far. My favorite episode, I think, so far was episode 3, but this was close between episode 5 and episode 6. Those are both really great episodes, so definitely have made it into some of my favorite episodes so far. There was a lot of great things that happened in this episode. Pedro Pascal, his acting was awesome in this episode. I thought this was probably his best performance so far in the show, besides maybe the first episode when Ellie died, when Sarah died. I thought that was really great acting, but this episode he kind of pushed it pretty far, and I loved it. Also, Ellie, she was awesome. Bella Ramsey as Ellie, she was phenomenal as usual. A lot of emotion from her this episode. Really great. And, next episode, we're going to have a lot to do with her going forward. But let's take it back and start going through the episode as we usually do. We'll start at the beginning. This episode begins with a 3-month seasonal time jump, similar to the game. I believe it was more fall in the game than it was winter, but it was still a seasonal time jump. Also in the game, when we do get into winter, it opens up on a rabbit that Ellie shoots. There's a couple memes out there about it, but so go check them out. But it's similar. Opens up the episode with 2 dead rabbits hanging on the fence, and we get introduced to a couple of new characters. One named Marlon and his wife Florence, and they are an isolated couple that have been living off grid, it looks like, pre-pandemic. So we get to introduce them, and they are hilarious. They were cracking me up. I loved their whole dynamic as a couple. And Joel had Florence held hostage, kind of. Not really. I mean, like, she just had her, or he just had her at gunpoint, but it was funny because she was just like, I made him soup, and I thought that was hilarious. Marlon's like, "What'd you tell him?" And there was a lot. It was cool. One of the highlights of this episode, for me, that I noticed, a theme, I should say, was trust. And you start off this episode with seeing trust between 2 people, Marlon and his wife. Like, Joel's like, "Can you tell us where we are on the map?" And Marlon's like, "Did you tell them the truth?" She's like, "Yeah." "Are you telling me the truth?" "Yeah." So it had me cracking up. These 2's trust for each other was great, and it added so much to the themes of this episode. Marlon and Florence then send Joel and Ellie on their way, pointing out the correct direction to go, and also warn them to not cross the river, because anything beyond the river is death, apparently, and that's only because of what they've seen. They've been so isolated that they haven't really gotten to know what's out there in the world. I mean, like, they didn't really even know what fireflies were, so they thought they were the bugs, and that's pretty funny. But we got to see them talk about the river and it being death. And that's because the people in Jackson were leaving the bodies of the dead all along the river to kind of tell people this is a dangerous area. Do not pass, even though they have like a wonderful settlement built up there. I think it's more to derail people that are hostile away. So Then we get Ellie and Joel on their way towards Wyoming. I believe they're probably in Wyoming at this point to find Tommy. And they are walking. It's funny, there's a cool little conversation with Joel and Ellie that is about whistling. She's trying to whistle, and that is also a callback to the game. There's a conversation where she is trying to learn how to whistle. I believe in the game it happens more around the time of when Bill is in the game. But it's cool that they added that, because we have the isolation between Ellie and Joel now, and we get to see a little bit more of their relationship, their bond together grow, how far it has come since the loss of Tess. Another really cool part of this episode that I liked was a conversation between Joel and Ellie about where they want to be after this. And Ellie constantly moving. She can't go this way. She can't go that way. She says, there's the coast here. There's nothing here for her. All there's left is outer space. And that is a great nod at the video game as well. I believe in part 2 there's a flashback scene where Ellie and Joel visit a museum and they climb into a astronaut pod, pretend to be astronauts for a second to kind of brighten Ellie's day up. I believe it might have been for her birthday or something. Joel was very nice to bring her to this place to check out. And I'm wondering if we'll ever get to see that in the future of the show as well. So moving forward into this episode, as Joel and Ellie continue to travel, they are then surrounded by a group of cowboys and cowgirls from Jackson who surround them and make them drop their weapons, ask what their business is, and this is one of the first times that we get to see Joel be fearful. Now that Joel and Ellie have developed a relationship, Joel is experiencing a lot more emotions. We see fear in Joel's eyes as the cowboys have a dog that sniffs out whether they're infected or not. And you can just see that Joel is powerless and he almost seems scared as the dog approaches Ellie. And Ellie knows that she's infected. She knows that the dog's going to know, but quickly she plays with the dog, I'm guessing, to kind of divert it from knowing. So they check out. The cowboys and cowgirls bring them back. And one of the cowgirls that brings them in is Maria, Tommy's wife. So that is a really cool new dynamic. She is portrayed by a wonderful actress, Rutina Wesley, who I thought her performance was fantastic. She played the part of Maria perfectly. Maria and the cowboys bring Joel and Ellie into Jackson, and this is kind of where some of the differences between the show and the game happen as well. We don't really get to see Jackson in The Last of Us Part 1, the video game. We see it in Part 2, but where Joel meets up with Tommy is actually at the dam that they explore earlier in the episode, which is the central power to all of Jackson. Where we meet Tommy, we repair the dam in the game. It's a whole sequence, a whole giant bit. But in the show, we skip that whole part. There's already power to Jackson, and we get to actually go in it. And we don't get to see all of Jackson until Last of Us Part 2. That's a new, different kind of thing between the game and the show. And then as they enter Jackson, that is when Joel sees Tommy and he yells for him and give each other a hug, and then they kind of like reconnect. And Joel isn't the most thrilled with some things because he is trying to pass Ellie off to Tommy to complete this mission. So now that Tommy and Joel have reunited, things start to change a little bit. Initially, Joel is very happy to see Tommy, but then shortly after the high of seeing each other wears off, you can kind of see Joel start to somewhat resent Tommy. Joel has had to struggle in this world, basically cross the entire United States to find him, and here Tommy is living a very nice, happy life with a new wife and a baby on the way. You see Joel kind of pull back from the embracement and have some more resentment, jealousy even. So shortly after they meet, they all go sit down somewhere in the town and they have a quick conversation about how the past 7 years have been. Joel being constantly reminded of his manners when Tommy tells Joel that he is married to Maria. Ellie, being like, Joel, congratulations, say congrats. Joel kind of is withdrawing, again, like I just said. We also get a cool little nod at the video game here. In the background, we see a girl who's staring at Ellie, and we only see her for a second as she then quickly walks away. This is Dina from The Last of Us Part 2. So that's a really cool foreshadow or nod at what's to come. After the intense conversation, they then go for a tour of Jackson. Maria kind of showing Joel what they've been up to, their livestock, their community. They have electricity, they play movies, they have a really great community. And in the game, Maria is the leader of Jackson, but in this, she says that she is on the council. So there are other key members to running this big town that have set up. And then this is where the episode kind of also takes a little bit of a turn. They go their separate ways. Tommy and Joel go to talk privately, and Maria and Ellie go so that Ellie can wash up, take a shower, and Maria cuts her hair even. This is also a part where Maria releases information that Joel had a daughter who died. Ellie's like, wow, that makes a lot of sense now. But then we also get Tommy and Joel having the conversation of Ellie getting to where she needs to go for the cure. Joel tells Tommy that she is infected, but she is immune, and he can't take her any farther, and Tommy needs to. And this is a very selfish move on Joel's part, but it's because Joel is now a changed man. Joel in this show has a lot of new weaknesses compared to the unstoppable force that he was in the game. The fact that he's deaf is a weakness. His age is really showing in the show versus the game. This episode shows him a little more broken and fearful, and I think even somewhat anxious. He's becoming very vulnerable now. Now that he's been with Ellie for so long, we really get to see that. He's been watching over Ellie, becoming more attached, and he sees her more as his daughter, and he can't have that because if something were to happen to her, it would be Sarah all over again, and he does not want to experience that pain. So he tries to pass her off to Tommy because of how afraid he is. Again, it's that lingering trauma that he went through. Tommy, being a righteous man, agrees to take Ellie. But this is where Ellie has been listening into the conversation between Joel and Tommy. And of course, Ellie is extremely hurt by what is about to happen. We then approach a part of the episode that I think is arguably the best part of the episode, which is the confrontation between Ellie and Joel. Ellie obviously being upset, knowing that she is being passed off, gets into this argument with Joel, and we see the emotion play out. Ellie's like, I'm not your daughter. And this is straight up out of the game too. Joel's like, you don't even know what loss is. So it's really, really great acting, really great performance right here. And then Joel leaves. And I take it he has this moment to sit on everything that's happened, only to come back and see the mission out by taking Ellie all the way. We think that Tommy's going to end up taking her, but when Tommy brings Ellie to the stables, it ends up being Joel there. He says it should be your decision, and she, of course, has grown this attachment to Joel, so she's like, yes, we're going. And we see a really cool father-daughter bond sequence kind of happen with Joel and Ellie. He teaches her how to shoot the rifle. You could see the smile on their faces as they're playing around a little bit more. And they finally make it to the Colorado campus where the supposed Fireflies are waiting for them. But by the time that they get there, it has been abandoned. And another cool part that we see from the game is the monkeys. The monkeys are running around. Monkeys were in the lab. We get to see those, and which only makes me looking forward to more of The Last of Us Easter eggs, because there are other animals that pop up in this world as well. Then we get into the building to see if there's anybody there, and we don't find anyone. A couple of bandits come, and we get a cool confrontation between Joel and them. We see Joel choke out a person like he does in the game. It's a very common stealth move that's shown. We see that Joel has been stabbed by the man. Ellie's like, shit, this is her protector. This is the person that she's fully relying on, and she is now seeing him severely hurt, to say the least. So they ride away as the other bandits try to go after them. They make it out, but Joel then later falls off the horse, and Ellie gets super emotional thinking that he's going to die, and that's where the episode kind of ends. In the game, it happens a little differently. Joel falls off of like a platform and onto a metal rod, which is a lot more brutal, but it's also, goes clean through him. Probably couldn't recover as easily from that as to a bat handle being stabbed in your side. So I'm curious to see where we're going to go, where we're going to get to in the next couple of episodes. This was a fantastic episode. Go watch it. I'm going to give this episode a solid 9 out of 10. There are some things that I cannot wait to see from the Last of Us show that I'm really hoping, as much as I love all of the new tweaks and character development that they are giving our beloved Joel and Ellie, there are some things that I still do want to see. I know that people are happy with some of the changes, but I want to see an unstoppable moment of Joel, because Joel is a badass motherfucker and he gets shit done, and I really want to see that. And I feel like we've gotten that teased here and there, and we've seen little glimpses of it here and there sprinkled throughout the last 6 episodes, but like there hasn't been a moment where it's been like, this is fucking Joel. So I'm thinking the last episode is going to be that episode where we get to see Joel go crazy, and I'm very, very much looking forward to that. So it's one of the things that I'm really interested in seeing. But that's going to be it for episode 6 breakdown. Go watch The Last of Us if you guys haven't seen it and you guys are just listening to these episodes for my sake. Go watch the show. It's worth it. And that's where I'm gonna leave off. Thank you all for joining me this episode, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening into the Calvin Cam podcast. I am so incredibly grateful for all of you listeners out there. You can find me on all audio streaming platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, Amazon, etc. And I also have a YouTube channel that I upload to. So go check me out. If you want to follow me on Instagram and Twitter, I also have those, the Calvin Cam. So check it out. Thanks for your support, and we'll see you soon.